What if I told you that the very advice you've been following for years to simply walk more might be the reason your leg circulation isn't getting better? I know that sounds controversial, especially coming from a surgeon. We are trained to tell you to move, but here is the reality I see in my clinic every single week. I have patients over 60 who walk 2 miles a day. They wear the tight compression socks, they elevate their feet every evening, and yet they still suffer. They still have cold toes. They still have that heavy, dragging feeling in their lower legs by 5 p.m., and they are still waking up with night cramps. Why is that? Because walking, while fantastic for your heart and lungs, relies largely on momentum. When you shuffle or walk at a leisurely pace, you aren't actually engaging the deep muscle fibers required to squeeze blood against gravity. And that is the monster we are fighting after age 60. Gravity. You have to understand that your heart is a powerful pump, but it is located far away from your feet. To get blood down is easy. Gravity does the work. But to get that oxygen-depleted blood back up to your lungs and heart, your body has to fight physics. This is where the second heart comes in. You have a system of veins deep inside your calf muscles. Inside those veins are tiny, delicate one-way valves. When you were 20, those valves snap shut tightly, preventing blood from leaking back down. But after 60, those valves can become floppy. They don't seal perfectly. So if you don't have a strong muscular contraction surrounding those veins, the blood leaks backward. This is called venous insufficiency. It's what causes the swelling, the varicose veins, and eventually the skin discoloration that leads to slow healing sores. This is why I'm revealing these specific 5 movements. These are not just exercises. These are surgical rehab protocols designed to manually pressurize those veins and force the valves to do their job. We are going to double the length of our usual deep dive today because the comments section has been flooded with questions, and I want to address the confusion between the movements, specifically the difference between pumping and holding, because getting that wrong is why you aren't seeing results. Let's get right into it with movement number 5, the seated Soleus activation, or the gas pedal pump. Many of you asked in the comments, can I do this if I have bad balance? Or what if I can't stand for long? This is your starting line. This movement targets the soleus muscle, which sits underneath the big calf muscle. The soleus is actually known as the endurance pump because it works even when your knee is bent. Sit in a sturdy chair with your feet flat. This sounds simple, but pay attention to the technique. I want you to lift your toes toward your shins as hard as you can. You should feel a stretch in your Achilles. Then deliberately roll forward and press your toes into the ground, lifting your heels as high as they will go, like you are flooring the gas pedal of a car. Do not rush this. Most people bounce their legs up and down nervously. That does nothing. You need a full, deliberate contraction. Up, squeeze, down, stretch. Do this for 30 seconds while you're having your morning coffee or watching the news. This wakes up the neural pathways from your brain to your feet, signaling that it's time to move fluid. Now let's move to movement number 4, the seated venous return lift. This addresses a massive problem I see in seniors, thigh weakness. You might think, Doc, my problem is in my feet. Why are we working the thighs? Because the femoral vein in your thigh is the highway that leads to the heart. If the highway is blocked or sluggish, it doesn't matter how hard the calf works. The traffic, your blood, has nowhere to go. Sit tall. Do not lean back against the chair. Use your core. Extend one leg out completely straight. Lock the knee. Now lift that straight leg just a few inches off the seat. You will feel a fire in the top of your thigh. That is your quadriceps compressing the deep femoral veins. Hold it for 3 seconds, then lower it down. If you have been told you have bone-on-bone knees or arthritis, this is actually one of the safest ways to strengthen the joint without impact. By strengthening the upper leg, you create a suction effect that helps draw blood up from the lower leg. We are entering the top 3, and this is where I need to clear up a major confusion. A lot of you asked, what is the difference between movement number 3 and movement number 1? They look the same. They are not, and understanding the difference is the key to fixing your circulation. Movement number 3 is the calf pump walk with support. This exercise is about rhythm and the valve mechanism. Think of this as priming the engine. Stand behind your chair or kitchen counter, hold on lightly. You are going to rise up on your toes and lower down at a steady tempo, up, down, up, down. Imagine you are walking, but your feet never leave the floor. This rhythmic pumping action mimics the natural gait of walking, but amplifies it. You are mechanically forcing those valves to open and close, open and close. This helps flush out the stagnant blood that has pooled while you were sleeping or sitting. However, rhythm isn't enough to build the strength required to keep the veins tight permanently. That brings us to movement number 2, which acts as the bridge to our final solution. Movement number 2, the single leg circulation stance. I cannot stress this enough. Falls are the number 1 enemy of longevity. Once you fall, you stop moving. Once you stop moving, your circulation fails. It's a vicious cycle. This exercise interrupts that cycle. Stand at your counter. Lift 1 foot off the ground. You don't need to bring it high, just an inch is fine. Now close your eyes if you are safe, or just stare at a spot on the wall. Feel what is happening in your standing ankle. It's twitching, right? It's wobbling. Those micro twitches are your body's automatic stabilization system firing hundreds of times per second. Every single one of those tiny twitches is a micro pump for your blood flow. You are getting hundreds of muscular contractions without even exercising. If you can only hold this for 5 seconds, that's fine. Aim for 10, then 15. The goal is 30 seconds. This stabilizes the ankle joint and prevents that wobbly feeling that leads to falls. And now, the most important movement, the one that surgeons wish every patient over 60 would do every single day. Movement number 1, the standing maximum contraction hold. Here is the difference between this and movement number 3. Number 3 was about rhythm. This is about pressure. This is about squeezing the sponge until it is dry. Stand at your support. Rise up onto your toes as high as you possibly can. Now here is the secret sauce. I want you to try to go 1 inch higher. Squeeze your calves so hard you feel a cramp almost starting and hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why the hold? Because when you have old, stiff arteries and leaky veins, quick movements allow blood to slip back down. A sustained, high-pressure hold physically forces the blood through the valves and traps it above them. You are manually overriding the failure of the aging valve system. Then, lower down slowly for a count of 3. Do not drop. The lowering phase is just as important because it stretches the muscle under tension. If you only do one thing from this entire video, do 10 reps of these 5-second holds twice a day. I want to address a few quick things from the comments. Some of you mentioned you have varicose veins and are afraid to exercise. These exercises are exactly what you need. Varicose veins are caused by pooling blood. These movements empty the pool. However, if you have active blood clots or a DVT, you must consult your doctor first. Others mentioned night cramps. That is often a signal of poor circulation and mineral depletion. Hydration is critical here. Your blood is mostly water. If you are dehydrated, your blood turns into sludge. It is harder to pump sludge than it is to pump water. Drink a glass of water before you start these exercises. And finally, to the people asking, is it too late for me? I'm 75, I'm 80. It is never too late. Skeletal muscle is incredibly plastic. It wants to adapt. I have seen patients in their 80s who could barely walk to the mailbox regain the ability to walk around the block just by committing to these calf pumps. So, here is my challenge to you. Do not just watch this video and nod along. Stand up right now, find a chair, do 5 reps of the maximum contraction hold. Feel the heat in your legs. That heat is life. That heat is fresh oxygenated blood healing your tissues. If you found this helpful, or if you felt that burn in your calves, let me know in the comments below. Tell me which number surprised you the most, and please share this with someone you love who is struggling with their mobility. You might just save them from a fall. Now stay tuned, because in the next video, we're going to talk about the one mistake people make when sleeping that cuts off circulation overnight. You don't want to miss that.